name is Jason, and this is Just Watches. Today we have an excellent homage watch. This is the Pagani Design homage to the Speedy. Now, Pagani Design has been making homages for a while, but I haven't had a chance to review one until now. This was lent in for review by a friend of the channel. I have to say, this is a really impressive watch, and a fun way to experience the watch it is homaging for less than $100. However, before we get to the review, if you're enjoying the contents of this channel, I invite you to subscribe, and if you're enjoying the contents of this individual video, please give it a thumbs up. Thank you so much. For price and availability, at the time of this recording, this watch is available from Pagani Design for the price of $90. The case is 42mm in diameter, 48mm lug to lug. It's 14mm thick, but about 1mm of that is this domed sapphire crystal, and then it has a 28mm lug width opening. Now sized for my 6 3/4 inch wrist, it weighs in at 134 grams. This watch has decent finishing for the price. There is brushing along the sides with a high polished shoulder that terminates in twisting lyre style lugs. We also have a crown that tucks into the case and the 2 pushers to operate the chronograph. The case back is a bit thick, but it is balanced by the bezel and crystal on the opposite side of the mid case. The stock bracelet starts at 20mm and tapers down to 18 before jumping back up to 20 at the clasp. The solid end links have virtually no play. The articulation across the back of the watch and between the links is excellent, 2 important factors in the overall comfort of a bracelet. The 3-link style is mostly brushed with high polish on the inner sides of the outer links. The signed clasp uses a double push deployant and has a fully milled scissor. The watch has 3 micro positions, and between the micro positions and the small links, you will likely get a very good fit. Sizing is accomplished with standard split pins. This bracelet is really impressive at this price point, but it's not perfect. The back of the clasp and the edges of the links are not super well finished and feel a bit sharp. That said, it's an excellent bracelet considering the overall price. The screw-in case back helps provide 100 meters of water resistance, and we have a space scene against a satin background. This is a bit cheesy for me, but it hides against the back of the watch, so there's no real harm one way or another. This watch is powered by the Seiko Mechaquartz VK63. This is a chronograph that gives you a slightly smoother sweep on the chronograph hand, as well as snap-back functionality on both the chronograph hand and the 60-minute totalizer. This movement is accurate to plus or minus 20 seconds a month, and has a battery life of approximately 3 years, depending on how much you use that chronograph. Now, this is such a cool movement, but it is slightly held back by the 24-hour register, which doesn't really add value to the watch overall, at least to me. I wish Seiko would make one of these movements, but instead of the 24-hour sub-register, give us the running hours on the chronograph function. Finally, you do get a quick set date at the 4:30 position. The 6mm screw-down crown is nicely signed with the Pagani logo in high polish against a satin background. The threading and unthreading action is a touch rough, but functions just fine. Despite being slightly tucked into the case, I find the crown is wide enough to be able to get a good grip on it and operate the watch with. Impressively, you get a double domed sapphire crystal at this price, and it is about 1mm proud of the bezel. I love the look from the side with the bezel and that domed crystal. It looks a bit like a classic UFO to me. The bezel is high polish around the edges and then has a beautiful deep black insert. I'm not 100% sure if this is ceramic, but it certainly looks like it is. It has a very reflective surface that will catch light from certain angles. The dial is matte black with dashes for the minutes and larger printed dashes for the hours. We have the Pagani Design logo, name, and chronograph at 12 and the date at 4:30. The date blends in quite well into the dial and isn't distracting. The sub-registers sink into the dial like small bowls with sloping sides and then concentric circles on the bottom. This helps them catch light, making them more legible and adding dimensionality to the dial overall. The flat hour and minute baton hands are stark white and filled with lume, which makes this watch incredibly legible. The minute hand reaches all the way to the edge of the dial, as does the chronograph hand, which is also white with the short counterbalance and a loomed arrow at the tip. Finally, the sub-register hands are also white and easy to read. So the weakest part of this watch is the lume. Despite being on the hands and indices, it's absolutely awful. It fades extremely quickly. As you can see, it's paired against this silent service and Seiko, which both frankly have incredible lume. And here is the watch on my 6 3/4 inch wrist. I think it looks pretty fantastic on wrist, and this is a really fun watch to wear. So pros and cons, starting with the pros. Well, this watch is an incredible package for the price and looks fantastic. If you want to experience what a Speedy might look like and feel like on your wrist for less than $100, you can't go wrong. The bracelet is solid for the price point, and the bezel, dial, and crystal are really well executed. I was shocked by how much I enjoyed and wore this watch. As for cons, I love the use of a Mechaquartz movement, but I wish Seiko made one with a hour totalizer rather than a 24-hour sub-register. Second, the bracelet edges are a touch rough, but I think you could easily fix that with some loves fine sandpaper and a little bit of elbow grease. Finally, the lume is terrible and is the weakest part of the watch overall. As for comparables, Orient and Seiko make many different quartz chronographs from the $100 to $150 price point that you could consider. If you can find it, I would look for the SSB031, which I think is one of the coolest Seiko chronographs in this price range. However, I don't think they're made anymore, so finding one might be very difficult. While it costs much more and is a larger watch, I think one of the other best alternatives to the Speedy is the Bulova Lunar Pilot. It uses Bulova's very cool high-frequency quartz movement, and also apparently they are releasing a 43mm version, which is a nice alternative to the currently existing 45mm version. So there you have it, the Pagani Design Speedy Homage. What do you think about this watch? Let me know in the comment section below. As always, if you're enjoying the contents of this channel, I invite you to subscribe, and if you like the contents of this individual video, please give it a thumbs up. That's all for this time. My name is Jason, and you have been watching Just Watches.